Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the loudest voices around you are not there to lift you up, but to pull you down. We call them toxic people. They criticize, they manipulate, they drain. And if you're not careful, they will define you. But let me tell you something powerful today. Do this one thing, and toxic people will never bother you again. Set your boundaries. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Because the moment you draw a line in the sand, you send a message, not just to them, but to yourself. I respect who I am, and I will protect my peace. You see, when I was lying on that hospital bed, broken, physically and emotionally, there were people who said, she'll never walk again. She's done. And the worst, she's not good enough anymore. But I made a choice. I chose to stop giving power to the voices that didn't build me. And that day I realized something life-changing. You don't have to fight toxic people. You just have to free yourself from needing their approval. Walk away, silently, peacefully. Peace. Because your energy is too sacred for arguments, too valuable for drama, too important for hate. Look in the mirror and say, I decide who enters my life and who no longer gets access to me. It's not about revenge. It's about respecting your journey. It's about choosing peace over chaos, growth over gossip, and self-love over self-doubt. You are not here to please everyone. You are here to live a life of purpose, of passion, of peace. Setting clear boundaries is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect. It is not about building walls to shut people out, but about creating a space where your peace, your energy, and your self-worth are protected. When you decide to establish boundaries, you are telling the world, and more importantly, yourself, that you matter, your feelings matter, and your well-being matters. Many people go through life afraid to say no, afraid to speak up, afraid to walk away from things or people that drain them. They endure negativity in silence, hoping that things will change or that people will start treating them better out of their own goodwill. But here's the truth. People treat you the way you allow them to. If you don't set the standard, someone else will. And often it won't be in your favor. Boundaries aren't about being rude or cold. They are about clarity. They are about saying, this is where I end, and this is where you begin. They help you define what behavior is acceptable in your life and what isn't. Whether it's in personal relationships, the workplace, or even among friends, boundaries keep your emotional space clean. Without them, you invite chaos, manipulation, and emotional exhaustion into your life. You don't owe anyone endless access to your time, energy, or emotions. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. When you learn to say no without feeling guilty, when you step away from conversations that disrespect you, when you stop engaging with people who consistently overstep their limits, you're not being difficult, you're being self-aware. You're being healthy, you're being whole. It might not be easy at first. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will be the ones most uncomfortable when you start setting them. They may call you selfish. They may guilt trip you or label you as changed. That's okay. You are changing. You are growing. And growth always requires letting go of what no longer serves you. The truth is, people who truly respect and value you will understand your need for boundaries. The rest, let them go. You are not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You are only responsible for enforcing them. There will be situations where you need to walk away, not because you're weak, but because you are finally strong enough to prioritize your peace. Walking away from what disrupts your mental and emotional health is not a sign of defeat. It's a declaration of self-worth. Setting boundaries also teaches others how to treat you. When you show up for yourself with dignity, when you speak your truth calmly but firmly, you create a ripple effect. You give others permission to respect you. You become unshakable because your self-respect becomes your armor. And with that armor, toxic people will find no place in your life. They thrive on access. Access to your time, to your reactions, to your silence. Once that access is cut off, once the boundaries are in place, their influence fades. Boundaries help you stay in alignment with who you truly are. They keep your relationships healthy and your inner world balanced. Life becomes lighter when you stop carrying what was never yours to hold. Other people's expectations, guilt, and drama. When you say yes to yourself, you naturally start saying no to the things that disrupt your peace. You do not have to explain your boundaries. You do not need to apologize for them. Saying, I'm not available for that is enough. Saying I need space is enough. Your needs are valid, and honoring them is not just your right, it's your responsibility. Every time you set a boundary, you are practicing self love. You are telling yourself that your comfort matters just as much as anyone else's. And slowly, something powerful begins to happen. The anxiety fades, the emotional roller coasters stop. You begin to feel free, free from the pressure to please, free from the fear of judgment, free from the noise of other people's expectations. That is the gift of boundaries. They don't just protect you from toxic people, they reconnect you to yourself. Raising your standards is not about arrogance or pride. It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to settle for anything less than what aligns with your values, peace, and vision. It's about no longer accepting crumbs when you know you deserve the whole table. Too often, people stay stuck in situations, relationships, or environments that drain them simply because they've convinced themselves that this is the best it's going to get. But the moment you raise your standards, everything around you begins to shift. Your energy, your focus, your relationships, and your outcomes. There is nothing selfish about expecting more from life. There is power in declaring that you will no longer tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, manipulation, or mediocrity. That you are done bending yourself to fit into places that were never meant for your growth. When you raise your standards, you send a message, not just to the world, but to yourself, that your well being matters, that your dreams matter, and that your time is too precious to be wasted on anything that doesn't nourish your soul. Raising your standards often starts with self awareness. You have to know what you truly want, what you truly need, and what you absolutely will not compromise anymore. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about the ways you've allowed less than what you deserve, whether out of fear, habit, or hope that things might change. Growth demands that you stop waiting for others to treat you better and start treating yourself better first. This shift begins internally. It's reflected in the way you speak to yourself, the boundaries you enforce, and the goals you pursue. When your standards rise, so does your discipline. You stop giving your time to people who only show up when it's convenient for them. You stop entertaining conversations that leave you drained. You stop lowering your light to make others comfortable. You choose intentionality over impulse, purpose over people pleasing, substance over surface. It won't always be easy. Raising your standards might mean walking away from people you care about. It might mean saying no more often. It might mean being alone for a season while you rebuild your mindset and your environment. But that temporary discomfort is far better than the long-term pain of living beneath your potential. People will test your new standards. They will question the changes in you. Some will try to guilt you back into your old patterns. But your job is not to appease their discomfort. Your job is to protect the evolution happening within you. You are not changing for approval. You are changing for alignment, for peace, for growth. The beauty of raising your standards is that it naturally filters out what's not meant for you. Opportunities that once seemed appealing lose their shine. Relationships that once felt like everything begin to feel like distractions. You start to attract people and situations that respect your energy, mirror your effort, and honor your boundaries. Not because you forced it, but because you decided to level up. It's not just about demanding more from others, it's about demanding more from yourself. Holding yourself accountable to the life you say you want. Showing up consistently, even when it's hard. Making choices that reflect your values, not your fears. Becoming the kind of person who doesn't just dream of a better life, but does the inner and outer work to create it. You'll begin to notice that you set less and choose more. You entertain potential less and prioritize proven. You tolerate confusion less and seek clarity more. Life starts feeling lighter, not because it's suddenly perfect, but because you're no longer carrying the weight of staying small to fit in places that couldn't hold your greatness. Raising your standards is not a one-time decision, it's a daily commitment. A commitment to honor your worth, to speak your truth, and to trust that you deserve everything you're working for. It's a bold declaration that says, I will not shrink to be loved. I will grow to be respected. You are not here to survive. You are here to thrive. And thriving starts with refusing to settle. So raise your standards in how you love, in how you work, in how you speak to yourself, in how you allow others to treat you. And watch how your life begins to reflect the higher frequency you've chosen to live on. Self-respect is not something someone gives to you. It's something you decide to own. It's the quiet, unwavering belief that you are worthy of love, respect, and peace, regardless of what the world says. It's the voice that reminds you, even in your most difficult moments, that you never have to beg for what you deserve. When you carry self-respect, you carry protection. Not armor that keeps love out, but boundaries that keep harm away. It is the ultimate shield. Not because it stops life from being hard, but because it keeps your spirit intact through it all. There's a power that comes from knowing your worth, not in an external sense, but deep within. When you respect yourself, you stop allowing people to treat you like you're less. You stop tolerating situations that undermine your value. You no longer stay silent to keep others comfortable. You speak, you walk, and you choose from a place of dignity, not desperation. You stop settling for halfway love, for conditional kindness, for connections that ask you to sacrifice your peace for the sake of belonging. Self-respect teaches you that walking away is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's knowing when a space no longer honors your presence. It's realizing that your energy is too valuable to be spent proving your worth to someone who refuses to see it. When you have self-respect, you stop chasing people. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop trying to fit into narratives that were never written for someone with your kind of heart. You start making choices that align with your truth. You eat better, you rest more, you forgive yourself. You stop criticizing your reflection and start celebrating your progress. You stop measuring your value through someone else's lens. Self-respect isn't about perfection, it's about intention. It's waking up and deciding, no matter what happens today, I will not betray myself. That decision becomes your compass. Guides how you show up, how you respond, and what you allow. People may call you difficult when you raise your standards. They may say you've changed when you start prioritizing your peace. Let them. That's not your weight to carry. Your job is not to shrink yourself to be palatable for others. It's to stand in your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. When you respect yourself, you become unavailable to anything that tries to belittle or control you. Self-respect also teaches patience. You don't rush into situations just because you're lonely. You don't accept less just to feel wanted. You trust that what's meant for you will never require you to compromise your values. You don't let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You create space for better because you know better is what you deserve. It's not always easy. There are moments when you'll question yourself, when you'll wonder if you're asking for too much, when you'll feel the pull of old patterns, old stories, old wounds. Every time you choose yourself, you build strength. Every time you say no to what doesn't feel right, you honor your growth. And with time, self-respect becomes second nature. It stops being a battle and starts being a lifestyle. You begin to walk with more confidence, not arrogance, but assurance. Assurance that you are not here to be anyone's option. Assurance that you are not here to carry other people's projections. Assurance that you are not here to abandon yourself for the comfort of others. And that kind of presence, it changes everything. It sets the tone for how the world responds to you. Because when you respect yourself, others are forced to rise or fall away. Your peace, your purpose, your energy, they are all protected by self-respect. It doesn't make life perfect, but it makes you powerful in how you respond to it. You become less reactive and more reflective, less desperate and more discerning, less exhausted and more empowered. In a world that constantly tries to define you, sell to you, and shape you, self-respect is the quiet rebellion. It's the reminder that you don't have to chase love, success, or validation. You simply have to honor who you are, consistently and unapologetically. And that's the kind of power no one can take away. Seeking approval from toxic people is like chasing the wind. Exhausting, directionless, and ultimately pointless. No matter how much you give, how much you bend, or how much of yourself you sacrifice, it will never be enough for those who are determined not to see your worth. The more you try to win them over, the more you lose pieces of yourself in the process. And that is far too high a price to pay for validation that should have never been needed in the first place. Approval is a basic human desire. It feels good to be accepted, to be seen, to be valued. But when that need is directed toward people who belittle, manipulate, or constantly criticize, it becomes a dangerous addiction. You begin to question your own judgment. You start doubting your voice. You reshape yourself to fit their expectations, which are often ever changing and rooted in control, not care. Toxic people thrive on making others feel small. They withhold validation to keep you chasing it. They know how to use silence as punishment and criticism as a tool to maintain power. And the more you try to prove your worth to them, the more they tighten their grip. That cycle becomes a trap. One that convinces you that if you just tried a little harder, gave a little more, stayed a little longer, they might finally see your value. But they won't. Not because you're not worthy, but because their entire identity is built around making others feel unworthy. When you stop seeking their approval, something incredible happens. You begin to reclaim your power. You start seeing through the illusions. You realize that their opinion of you was never the truth, just noise. You understand that your worth is not something they can give or take. It exists independently, deeply rooted within you. And it flourishes the moment you stop trying to be enough for someone who benefits from making you feel less. Letting go of that approval-seeking mindset is not always easy. It often comes after countless moments of hurt, confusion, and self-blame. But those moments become turning points. They become the foundation upon which you start rebuilding your identity, not on shaky ground made of others' opinions, but on solid rock built from self-awareness and self-respect. Choosing to stop seeking approval is not about rebellion or bitterness. It's about healing. It's about saying, I no longer need your acceptance to feel good about who I am. It's about recognizing the emotional toll of constantly performing for an audience that only claps when it suits them. It's about walking away from people who treat your loyalty as a leash. When you stop depending on toxic people for validation, you begin to hear your own voice more clearly. You start trusting your instincts, making choices that align with your values, and moving in a direction that feels right for you, not one that is dictated by fear of rejection or the hope of acceptance. That's when real confidence is born. Not the kind that brags or boasts, but the quiet strength that says, I know who I am, and I don't need you to confirm it. You also create space for healthy relationships when you let go of toxic ones. People who truly care about you don't need you to prove yourself. They don't keep score. They support you, respect you, and celebrate you, not manipulate you into earning their affection. When you stop seeking approval from those who never had your best interest at heart, you make room for genuine connections that nourish your soul instead of draining it. There is no freedom like the freedom that comes from no longer needing to be liked by those who don't see your light. That's when you start shining the brightest. That's when you begin to live, not to impress, but to express. To show up in your truth, to honor your journey, to walk in your power. You are not here to be palatable for everyone. You are not meant to shrink yourself to fit in places that were never meant for your greatness. The moment you stop seeking approval from the wrong people, you finally make space to accept yourself completely. And that kind of self-acceptance, it's unshakable, it's liberating, it's everything. There comes a point in life when you realize that not everyone will understand you, agree with you, or support you. And that's okay. The need to please others, to be accepted at the cost of your own well-being, is a habit born from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough. But the more you prioritize pleasing others over protecting your peace, the more you betray yourself. And every time you do, it chips away at your joy, your clarity, and your confidence. Pleasing people may feel like the easier road. You say yes when you mean no. You stay quiet to avoid conflict. You bend your values, your time, even your identity, just to keep others comfortable. But the truth is, every yes that comes from a place of guilt instead of intention is a silent act of self-sabotage. It teaches others that your needs don't matter. Worse, it convinces you that your needs aren't worthy of being met. Peace isn't just the absence of noise or conflict. It's the presence of alignment. It's when your actions reflect your values. It's when your relationships feel safe, not performative. It's when you go to bed with a calm heart, not a restless mind wondering who you disappointed today. And that peace, it's priceless. No amount of external approval can replace the serenity that comes from being at peace with yourself. There is strength in choosing yourself. There is courage in setting limits and saying no, in stepping away from environments or people who constantly demand more than they give. Some might call it selfish, but self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot uplift others if you're constantly dragging yourself down to meet them where they are. People pleasing may win you temporary acceptance, but it robs you of long-term fulfillment. It creates relationships that are conditional, based on how well you serve, how quiet you remain, or how much you tolerate. True connection doesn't require you to shrink. It welcomes your full, authentic presence. It respects your boundaries. It values your peace as much as it values your presence. There will always be demands on your time and energy. Some will come from people who love you, others from those who only take. The key is learning to discern the difference. Not every invitation is worth your presence. Not every opinion deserves your attention. And not every cry for help is your responsibility to answer. Protecting your peace means being intentional about where your energy goes, because energy is not infinite. You deserve to spend it on things and people that nourish you. You are not responsible for managing everyone's emotions. It is not your job to keep everyone happy. Trying to do so is a losing battle that ends in burnout, resentment, and disconnection from yourself. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for others and for yourself is to take a step back. To say, I can't do this right now, or this doesn't feel right for me, without guilt or explanation. Choosing peace over pleasing also requires trusting yourself. Trusting that your intuition is valid. Trusting that your needs matter. Trusting that the world won't fall apart just because someone is disappointed in you. And even if it does for a moment, let it. Because any peace that depends on your silence or compliance is not peace, it's control. There is nothing noble about self-sacrifice when it comes at the expense of your mental and emotional health. You weren't born to be a cushion for other people's discomfort. You were born to live fully, freely, and unapologetically. That begins when you stop chasing approval and start honoring your own needs. When you protect your peace, you begin to show up differently. You speak with more confidence. You breathe more easily. You walk through life without the constant weight of performing or pretending. You begin to attract people and opportunities that align with your truth, not your willingness to compromise it. So let go of the need to please. Let go of the fear of disappointing others. Let go of the guilt that comes from choosing yourself. Peace is not found in perfection. It is found in presence, in authenticity, in knowing that you are enough. Not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are when you honor your own heart. There is a quiet kind of strength in choosing to walk away, without chaos, without argument, without making a scene. It doesn't always feel like power in the moment, especially when emotions are high, when you've invested time, love, or energy. But walking away silently is one of the boldest things you can do when something or someone no longer serves your peace. The need for closure, to be understood, or to defend yourself can be overwhelming. It's tempting to want to explain why you're done, to lay everything out to prove a point, to be heard one last time. But the truth is, not everyone deserves access to your final words. Sometimes the greatest closure you can give yourself is in your own decision to move forward, even if they never understand, even if they never admit their part, even if the apology never comes. Drama is a trap. It pulls you back into a cycle you're trying to escape. It invites you to prove your worth in situations where your value was already being questioned. It's loud, reactive, and emotionally exhausting. But silence is powerful. Silence is clarity. Silence is you choosing your growth over the need to be right. It's the mature decision to preserve your energy rather than waste it on people or circumstances that are not evolving with you. Walking away silently doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're wise enough to know that your time is too valuable to be spent trying to convince someone of your truth. You don't need to justify what your spirit already knows. When something feels wrong, off, or heavy, trust that feeling. You don't owe anyone an explanation for prioritizing your peace. There's peace in the quiet, peace in saying, "This is not for me," and leaving with grace. Peace in not texting back. Peace in not checking in one last time. Peace in simply choosing to redirect your energy. That silence, it echoes. It says more than 1,000 angry words ever could. It communicates that your healing, your boundaries, and your dignity are not up for negotiation. People often mistake silence for weakness because they're used to reactions. They're used to emotional outbursts, to back and forth arguments, to messy endings. But silence is a choice. It is restraint, not cowardice. It is the decision to let go of the rope instead of continuing a tug of war that leads nowhere. And in letting go, you regain your freedom. Sometimes you don't need to slam the door. You just need to close it softly and keep walking. Let others wonder. Let them process. Let them rewrite the story if they want to. What matters is that you know the truth. You know why you left. And you know how long you stayed trying to make it work. And that's enough. Life is too short to keep explaining your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Walking away silently is about reclaiming your power, not punishing anyone. It's a quiet revolution. A moment where you choose your own well-being over chaos, confusion, and emotional survival. In the silence, you find yourself again. You hear your own voice more clearly. You remember who you are and what you deserve. And from that place of stillness, you begin to rebuild, stronger, wiser, and more intentional. Not every battle needs to be fought. Not every moment demands a dramatic ending. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disengage. No raised voice. No final speech. Just a peaceful exit. Just your back turned and your heart open to what's next. That's not weakness. That's transformation. That's the moment you stop giving energy to what drains you. That's when you step into a new chapter not with noise, but with grace. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, argue, or get the last word, pause, breathe. And remember, silence is not the absence of a response, it is the response. And often it's the one that finally sets you free. There will always be voices around you, opinions, judgments, unsolicited advice. People will tell you who you should be, what you should do, how you should act. Some of these voices come from a place of love, others from a place of ego, fear, or misunderstanding. But the louder those voices get, the more important it becomes to tune in to the only one that truly matters, your own. Your purpose is not a community project. It is not a group discussion. It is your personal journey, and the more you focus on it, the less weight other people's opinions will hold. Living a purpose-driven life requires discipline, not just in action, but in focus. It means choosing not to get distracted by every whisper of criticism or every shout of disapproval. It means letting go of the need to be understood, accepted, or applauded by people who aren't walking your path. Opinions are cheap. They're handed out freely, often without context, often without compassion. But your purpose, that's sacred. That's your reason. That's what gives meaning to the pain you've endured, to the battles you've fought, and to the dreams that keep you awake at night. People will always have something to say. They'll question your timing, your decisions, your progress. They'll judge your silence, your boundaries, your confidence. But their opinions are shaped by their experiences, their fears, their limitations, not your potential. And if you live your life constantly adjusting to every criticism, you'll lose sight of what you're meant to do. You'll dilute your truth in the name of being agreeable. You'll become a version of yourself that pleases the crowd but leaves your soul empty. Purpose is not always glamorous. It's not always easy. Some days it's waking up early to work on something no one else believes in yet. Other days it's pushing through doubt, loneliness, or failure. But in those moments when you feel unseen or misunderstood, remember, your job is not to convince others. Your job is to stay aligned with the fire inside you. Because purpose has a voice too, and it speaks louder in stillness than the noise of external validation ever could. The truth is, most of the people who criticize you aren't even brave enough to do what you're doing. They sit on the sidelines, pointing fingers at those who dare to step into the arena. But you showed up, you kept moving, you believed in something bigger than comfort. And that courage, that persistence, that's what sets you apart. That's what makes you unstoppable. Purpose keeps you grounded. It reminds you of what really matters when everything else gets overwhelming. It's your compass in the chaos, your light in the darkness. It allows you to say, I see the distractions, I hear the noise, but I'm not stopping. That's the mindset that builds legacies, not just moments. You don't need everyone to understand your journey. You just need to understand it yourself. The ones who are meant to walk with you will. The rest will fall away. And that's not a loss, it's clarity. When you stop chasing approval and start chasing your purpose, your circle may shrink, but your life expands. You become more honest, more focused, more alive. There is freedom in no longer caring about opinions that don't align with your truth. Freedom in waking up each day, knowing you're doing what you're meant to do. Even if it's hard, even if it's unseen. That kind of fulfillment doesn't come from applause. It comes from integrity. It comes from knowing that you are not just existing, but living on purpose. So protect your purpose like it's treasure, because it is. Don't hand it over to people who haven't earned the right to influence your path. Don't let temporary opinions derail a vision that was placed in your heart for a reason. Stay true, stay focused, and keep walking. Because the moment you stop letting their voices direct your steps, you start stepping into the life you were always meant to live.